Um, my daughter and I were visiting a church yesterday, and and as we went in, part of the preaching was focused on the fact that we can lose our salvation. You can lose your salvation. You can lose your faith. And something I told Bella when we were driving away was, when you focus on what you can lose, then you'll probably lose those things. And this same thing I was talking about in a discussion group on Saturday night was when you're focused on the things that you fear, the things that you fear are probably going to come into being. And so maybe what we should be focused on instead of losing our salvation is, where's our salvation come from? And we know, where does my help come from? Where does my salvation come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. If we focus on God, then we don't have to focus on our weaknesses. Of course, if we're focused on, I'm weak, I can't keep my faith, I'm weak, I can't make my salvation happen, of course you can't. That's what God is for. That's what God does. And I think of it like the here's something that we can all agree on, that there is a debate in our world about climate change. So regardless of where you fall on climate change, it's still part of the debate. It's still part of what we talk about. But let's look at some facts. The facts is that God set this world into being. And regardless of what you think the effect of man and our controls that we put on the environment, whether it's bad or for good, whether you're a selfish industrialist or a barefooted leave only footprints type conservationist, um, no matter. The fact is that God started the system up to where it will thrive. It will thrive if you've ripped it to pieces, and it will thrive if left alone. So salvation is very similar to the environment. Salvation is acted upon all the time by people. Salvation is touched upon. It's invited into people's life. Religious people talk about salvation all the time, but the controversy comes in, what do we do with this salvation? How do we maintain this salvation? Fact is, salvation was delivered, and what do you do with it? You receive it. And if you're not receiving it, then a lot of people think you have to be managing it. And salvation is not something to be managed by mankind, because God set forth the system to where it doesn't need man's help to work. And if man screws it up, then does that mean God is a failure? No. God put the system in place to where man receives it. Just like the environment. We can either receive salvation from God, or we can think that God needs us to make the world hold together. Same way with religion. If do you think that God needs you to hold salvation together? If you do, then you'll be questioning your part in this, because you are weak. You can't do it all. You have failures. And we tend to play out God like, okay, so God fills in the gaps when all my failures come up. No, that's not the way it is. God has given salvation, and you are to be a recipient. You're not to be a purveyor of it. You're not to be the one pushing it out or controlling it for you, yourself, or others. Salvation is something that God has given, and it is to be received, just like the earth. Thank you for watching this organic parable, and if you liked it, please like it, subscribe it, and send it on to your friends. And you can also sponsor us on Patreon. Thank you for your support. Well, that was a rabbit trail for sure, wasn't it?